How's it going, my peeps? It is now time for the Extreme Rules 2014 results / highlights and review video. I'll go over the results, some of the highlights in my opinion, and I give you guys my thoughts, my review on the show. So it kicks off, of course, with the pre-show. They hype up the matches, talk about the matches they want to see, their predictions. I'm talking about the pre-show panel here, which was Josh Matthews, Booker T, Alex Riley, and Sheamus. They all talk about the matches, and then came time for the pre-show match, the WEELC match, and I thought this was awesome. You know, not only did they have, the miniature ladders, they also introduced miniature chairs, everything. I mean, the referee, it was a small referee. Same thing with the announcer, the commentators. They had a smaller version of Michael Cole, smaller version of Jerry the King Lawler, smaller version of JBL, who called himself WeBL, the smaller Jerry the King Lawler. I think he called himself Jerry the Smaller, something like that. And Michael Cole, the smaller Michael Cole, called himself Micro Cole. And they also had a mini announcers table. And man, the match was awesome. It was great. It was really fun to watch. There was so many spots in the match, so many tables broken. I haven't seen that many tables broken in a TLC match in a long time. So this WEELC match, they broke more tables in that match than, I'd say any recent tables match, or a TLC match, actually, because in a tables match, you just break one table to win. But yeah, and it was a TLC match where you win by pinfall or submission. There wasn't anything where you climb up the ladder and grab something. But yeah, it was a great match, so many spots. Los Matadores and 3MB got involved heavily, especially 3MB, who interfered. They took out Los Matadores during the match. You had El Torito pull off some cool moves. At some point in the match, Hornswoggle takes off the top of the announcer's table, the mini announcer's table, and then he puts El Torito on there. He gets on the apron, and he jumps, hitting an elbow drop onto El Torito from the apron to the outside onto the announcer's table. El Torito tried a frog splash from the very top of the ladder. It was a small ladder, but he was scared to do so, and El Torito even got up, and I was like, come on, do it, and then he got back down, and Hornswoggle went for the frog splash, but El Torito got out of the way. Man, it was just it was entertaining. There was so many spots in the match. One insane spot you had was, I think Hornswoggle was trying to put El Torito onto a table, like a full-size table on the outside, but El Torito, got out of there, and Drew McIntyre, who was on the inside of the ring, he went for a running senton, flipping senton like Seth Rollins does, from the inside of the ring to the outside, and he crashed through that table. And then, at the very end of the match, El Torito had a mini steel chair in his hand, which he was about to hit Heath Slater with. Heath Slater was, right in front of him. So he raises the chair up to hit Heath Slater, but right behind him, inside the ring, poking his head out of the ropes, was Hornswoggle. So he accidentally hits Hornswoggle in the head. That was also, I guess, the first one of the few steel chair shots to the head in a long time too. So after he hits Hornswoggle in the head, he climbs up the apron, and then he springboards. In the ring was a table. He springboards, and Hornswoggle was the table was right behind Hornswoggle. Hornswoggle wasn't laying on the table, but it was right behind him. So then El Torito jumps, springboards, and hits a senton on Hornswoggle through the table, pins him, and wins the match. Like I said, cool match. You had a spot where the Los Matadores, I believe, they had Jinder Mahal up on their shoulders on the apron, and El Torito climbed up the short ladder inside the ring, and he hit a senton on Jinder Mahal, while Los Matadores kind of hit an electric chair on Jinder Mahal at the same time through tables and ladders on the outside. And the crowd also loved the match. They were chanting, "This is awesome." So yeah, if you weren't expecting a good match, this was a really, really good match. Really entertaining. So after that, there was an interview backstage with Zeb Coulter and Jack Swagger talking about the match and how Swagger's gonna win, and then they end up with We the People. And after that was the main show, and the main show kicked off with the triple threat match, which was a pretty good match, but it wasn't as, I guess, extreme as I thought it would be. They didn't use weapons too much until the very end. But anyways, Jack Swagger ended up being the first eliminated when Cesaro went for a superplex. He hit the superplex on Swagger, and it was a pretty impressive superplex too, where he superplexed him from the apron while Cesaro was on the turnbuckle. And right after he hits that, out of nowhere, Rob Van Dam hits Swagger with a 5-star frog splash and eliminates Swagger. And also something cool was Cesaro did his gut wrench suplex, and he did it 3 times in a row while, still grabbing on to RVD. Anyways, afterwards, when it was just RVD and Cesaro, that's when RVD brought in a trash can. But before bringing in the trash can, he hit some of his signature moves. He hit the spinning leg drop while Cesaro was on the barricade. Now, once he grabbed the trash can, Cesaro actually drop-kicked the trash can onto Rob Van Dam. But then once RVD gets in the ring, a few moments afterwards, he gets the momentum. He hits not the 5-star, but the Rolling Thunder. And then he grabs the trash can, puts it on top of Cesaro, climbs up the top turnbuckle to hit the 5-star. But when he goes for it, right at the last second, Cesaro rolls out the way, but the trash can stays there, so Rob Van Dam hits the trash can, and then Cesaro follows it up with the neutralizer on RVD on the trash can, covers him, wins the match. After the match, you kind of saw Rob Van Dam on the outside, and it looked like he was bleeding right under his eye, so he might have landed, face first or something on the trash can. Or it might have happened early on in the match, but I think it was when he was going for the 5-star and landed on the trash can. But anyways, after that, you see Daniel Bryan backstage in a trainer's room, and Stephanie McMahon comes up to him, pretty much, telling him she thinks he should, surrender the match tonight against Kane, because, Kane could hurt him, she can't control the monster, and she pretty much is telling him to relinquish the title. Daniel Bryan tells her to get out of his face, and then Stephanie says, what was that word, Brie Bella said to me on Raw? And then she was like, oh yeah, if you go through with the match tonight, Kane's gonna make you his bitch. And then she leaves, and then after that, it was the handicap match, Alexander Rusev versus R-truth and Xavier Woods. Before the match even started, Alexander Rusev attacked both R-truth and Xavier Woods, but really focused on Xavier Woods. He hits a belly-to-belly suplex on Xavier Woods on the outside, takes him out, and then once he goes back in the ring, and R-truth also goes back in the ring, it's basically R-truth versus Rusev, while Xavier Woods was out, on the floor on the outside. So, R-truth actually gets some offense in. He hits, his signature moves. He hits his kicks, he hits the spinning elbow, but Rusev keeps getting up until R-truth hits the scissors kick. But even then, Rusev kicks out at 2. And then shortly after, Rusev, hits his spinning side slam, and then follows it up with the camel clutch, and beats R-truth and Xavier Woods, although Xavier Woods was taken out the entire match. After the match is over, and by the way, during the match, I think the crowd was even chanting, we want Lana. But anyways, after the match was over, he gets out of the ring, and then he looks at Xavier Woods, and Lana signals for Rusev to attack Xavier Woods. So he grabs him, and he hits a fallaway slam. And that was it for that. Following that, Renee Young interviewed Evolution, and basically, they said that, or Triple H said that, the Shield says that Evolution, they all have big egos, and that's gonna cost them the match. And then Triple H says, yeah, they do all have, egos. He's not gonna come out here and say they don't. But once again, they go over how, the Shield can either adapt or perish, and that tonight, the Shield will perish. So then, following that, it was time for the Intercontinental Championship match, Bad News Barrett versus Big E. And right when they announced that it was time for the Intercontinental Championship match, the crowd cheered. And by the way, the crowd was really behind Barrett, just like they were, these past couple of weeks, cheering Barrett, and they were actually booing Big E. And as far as the match goes, it was a decent match. And before the match, as usual, Barrett delivered some bad news about the recent virus that hit, and saying that that's nothing compared to what he's going to do to Big E. Now, the ending of the match. Wade Barrett went for the bullhammer. Bad News Barrett. Bad News Barrett went for the bullhammer on Big E. Big E ducked, though, and then right away he charged the ropes, But what he didn't see is Barrett also charged the other ropes, the other side of the ropes. So Big E right now charging the ropes. He wants to go for a signature clothesline, but Barrett also charging the ropes, and he comes back with a running bullhammer on Big E, and then covers Big E and wins the Intercontinental Champion to become a 4-time IC champion. So crowd cheers for that, and I really liked the ending. I thought actually that was the highlight of the match, the running bullhammer. Stopping Big E from hitting the running clothesline. Anyways, after the IC Championship match, it was time for the Shield versus Evolution show. So they show a cool video package before the match. And man, this was an awesome match. This was seriously so cool. Especially in the ending. The ending was awesome. Action all over the place. Anyways, some of the highlights of the match. You had Triple H going for a pedigree on Reigns, I believe, for the first time, but it wasn't successful because Seth Rollins got in and hit his springboard knee on Triple H. But eventually, shortly after, Triple H hit the pedigree on Reigns successfully, and that was when Batista was the legal man, Batista and Reigns. But then Ambrose comes in and he brawls with Triple H. They get out of the ring. Batista and Reigns still in the ring after that pedigree to Reigns, so Batista crawls on top of Reigns, covers him, but Reigns actually kicks out at 2. Or 2.5, and then after that, Randy gets in, and he hits an RKO on Reigns, and then gets out of the ring, and Batista covers Reigns, but Seth Rollins comes in, and he breaks the pin, and then that's when the action really started, and you had a brawl all over the place in the crowd and all that. Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Triple H, Randy, they all fought on the outside. At some point, they even bumped into one of the camera guys and he fell. And then Triple H, I think they took out Dean Ambrose for a short while, and Triple H and Randy were, attacking Seth Rollins. And they were attacking him where, like, right next to the crowd, behind the barricade that's right next to the announcer's table. So then Dean Ambrose finally gets up, and he climbs up on the Spanish announcer's table, runs on top of the other announcer's table too, and jumps on both Randy and Triple H, taking them down, saving Seth Rollins, and then they continue on fighting in the crowd while Batista and Reigns are down in the ring. So Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, a Shield and Evolution fight in the crowd, and at some point they take out Seth Rollins, and you have Triple H and Randy kind of double team Dean Ambrose. And Dean Ambrose falls off, like some steps. There's a bunch of stairs, He falls down the stairs. And then Randy and Triple H climb down the stairs. And they keep attacking Dean Ambrose. It's 2-on-1. Seth Rollins is nowhere to be seen at this point. And then they grab Dean Ambrose, and they're picking him up, and then all of a sudden you hear the crowd go wild. So you know something's up. You know something's going on there. There's somebody interfering, or somebody appeared, and then the camera looks up, and you see Seth Rollins jumping from the crowd. It was pretty high up there. It like as high as a steel cage, or maybe even a bit higher. I don't know. I'd say maybe as high as a steel cage. It was pretty high up. He jumps from there onto, Triple H, Randy, Dean Ambrose, but, he intends to, take down Triple H and Randy, so he takes them down. Crop pops huge for that. It was a cool jump. It was a crossbody from, way up. And then they go back in the ring. Batista and Reigns are just, getting up. They're slowly getting back up. And Reigns charges Batista. Batista catches him with a spine buster. And then he's preparing for the Batista bomb. So he sets him up for the Batista bomb, but Reigns gets out of it, bounces off the ropes, bam, Superman punch, and then he falls. By the way, I love the way Batista sells the Superman punch, how he just falls down face first, not knowing where he is. And anyways, yeah. So, right after the Superman punch, Reigns sets up for the spear, he hits it, and at that point I'm like, oh, wait a minute, where's Ric Flair? Because this entire time, I'm like, at some point, Ric Flair's gonna come in, interfere, Evolution's gonna win. But no, there was no Ric Flair. After the spear, Reigns just, covers Batista and gets the win for his team. So yeah, man, awesome match. Also, kind of an unexpected victory. I thought Evolution was gonna win, especially after Flair on Raw cited with the Shield. I thought, it was a swerve, so, at come time for the match, Ric Flair would interfere at some point. Shield would be like, oh, it's Ric Flair, he's here to help us out, and then he low-blows one of them, but no, none of that happened. But yeah, man, that was incredible, and it was an incredible match. I'd say one of the best Shield matches I've seen. Maybe even the best, actually. I think I'd rank this maybe above the Shield versus Wyatt family match. So, after that, after the match, Roman Reigns catches up to Ambrose and Seth Rollins where they were in the crowd, and he grabs Ambrose, who was like down, grabs him in a fireman's carry to pick him up, and helps Seth Rollins back up, and then they do the fist bump, and that was it for that match. Following that, it was time for the steel cage match, Bray Wyatt versus John Cena. Cena makes his entrance first, and then Bray Wyatt. And, man, this matchup, there was so much interference. Right from the get-go, Eric Rowan and Luke Harper were at ringside. Cena wasn't happy about that. He was, looking at the ref and then pointing at them, like, hey, what are they doing here? Why don't you, kick them out or something? But, they were there. And throughout the match, Cena would try and escape, and then you'd have Luke Harper there, or you'd have Eric Rowan there, or both of them stopping him, whether he'd try and escape from the top of the cage, or the door. They would push the door back at him so he doesn't get out. And at some point, Cena even just grabbed, because Cena was trying to escape once again from the top of the cage, and Luke Harper tries to stop him by climbing up the cage himself, and he's stopping him up there, and he's punching Cena, and Cena then grabs him and drags him into the cage, actually, and bounces Luke Harper's head into the cage, and then Luke Harper just falls onto the mat. And then from then on, Luke Harper was in the ring the entire match. It was kind of like a handicap match, but whenever Harper would try and do something, whenever he'd get up, Cena would just take him down with a clothesline or something. And and then, again, Cena would try and get out. This time, since Eric Rowan's the only one on the outside, he'd try and stop him. And Bray Wyatt would try and stop him. And, Luke Harper. But Luke Harper, like I said, he'd mostly just get taken down whenever he'd try and get back up. Now, Cena, one of the highlights in the match, you had Cena hitting the attitude adjustment from the second turnbuckle. And after that move, that's when Luke Harper actually, was able to do something and not just, get up and then get taken down by Cena. He broke the pin. And, then you had Eric Rowan trying to get inside the ring too. So John Cena grabs him by the beard, and he grabs him by the beard and just shoves him face first onto the steel a bunch of times. And then I think he hit the Faymacer on Harper. And then basically they're all down, Bray from the attitude adjustment from the second rope, Eric Rowan from the beard, well, not from the beard, but, from getting his head smashed into the steel, and Luke Harper with the Faymacer. So Cena's like, oh, he's looking at the door, then slowly crawls towards the door, and then, Wyatt family signal, and then lights go out, and then you hear a voice. It sounds like it's a very deep voice. It sounds like a voice changer when you use one of those voice changers that gives you a deep voice. And then when the lights come back on, and by the way, the voice was saying he's got the whole world in his hands. When the lights come back on, it's a little kid with a microphone, and when he's talking, it's like a deep voice. So there's probably a voice changer in the microphone or something. I don't know. So then Cena just looks on, at the kid like, what? What's this? And the kid is standing right in front of the steel cage door. And Cena's just stuck there, looking at him, he's shocked. And then out of nowhere, from behind, Bray Wyatt grabs Cena, hits Sister Abigail, and then after that, he just gets out of the cage and wins the match via escaping the cage. Afterwards, after the match is over, Bray Wyatt hugs the kid, and Luke Harper, and Eric Rowan all leave with the kid. And on the top of the stage or the ramp, Bray Wyatt, mocks Cena with the "You Can't See Me" taunt. So afterwards, it was a Divas title match, Paige versus Tamina. At some point in the match, a highlight of the match would be Paige was going on the apron. Tamina was on the outside, so Paige goes for like a Hurricane Rana from the apron onto Tamina, who's on the outside. Tamina catches her though and swings her like shoulder first onto the barricade. But in the end, Paige ends up locking on the Scorpion Crosslock and Tamina taps out. So Paige is successful in her very first title defense. So after that match, we actually get the lights. When Paige is celebrating, lights go off. You get the Wyatt family signal, and then you see, the Wyatt family along with that kid, and apparently that kid is called Little Johnny. Bray Wyatt talks to him. He praises him for a good job, and at the end of the promo, and he talks about how now the people are listening now that he beat John Cena, and in the end he lets the kid finish the promo by saying follow the buzzards, and he gives the kid the mask, the sheep mask, which he puts on. But when the kid said follow the buzzards, initially when he said follow, you could hear the kid's real voice. So I guess it was an instance there where the voice changer didn't work or something. But then, the deep voice, after the word follow, the deep voice, was brought back. And then it was time for the main event, Kane versus Daniel Bryan. They showed a video package before the match. And this match exceeded my expectations. This was a really, really good Extreme Rules match. And just like the Alexander Rusev 2-on-1 handicap match, the match, Bryan and Kane started brawling before the bell even rung. Because when Kane was making his entrance, Daniel Bryan made his entrance first. When Kane was making his entrance, Bryan got out of the ring and just went right after Kane. But Kane, shortly after, he took down Bryan, grabbed a kendo stick, and started beating on Bryan with the kendo stick. And yeah, they used a bunch of weapons, kendo sticks, steel chairs. They even used the top of the announcer's table and the top of the announcer's table, which is like not as strong. Danny Bryan used that. It was like a, how the announcer's table has a top? Well, that top kind of like has a sticker on top. It's not exactly a sticker, actually. It's like a piece of, no, I wouldn't say paper. Never mind. But anyways, basically they use a lot of stuff. They use the monitors too. And at some point they got back in the backstage. And the camera followed them. You had Daniel Bryan like right next to a bucket of water. And Kane grabs a TV, and he chucks the TV where Daniel Bryan was, but he wasn't there once, Kane chucked the TV. Daniel Bryan got out of the way, so he chucked the TV right into the bucket of water. And the TV pretty much, blew up. Well, not exactly blew up, but, afterwards it's broken. And from then on, there was like an electricity problem or something. And there was a problem with the camera, I'd say, or the audio, where the audio would just, there would be like a weird sound, like a popping sound. Even Jerry the King Lawler pointed that out. But afterwards, it wasn't there anymore. And then they went on in the parking lot where Kane backdropped Daniel Bryan onto a car, and then Kane grabbed like a freaking, not a fire extinguisher, but something along those lines. He grabbed something like that. It's the same shape and everything. And he threw that right towards Daniel Bryan, who got out of the way. He was still on the car, but he got out of the way, got off the car right in time, and that thing just went right through the glass, or the windshield of the car, and it was stuck there. And then Bryan was just kind of getting away from Kane. He goes like right next to another car, and Kane goes to punch Bryan, but Bryan gets out of the way once again, so Kane punches through the glass, and then he's holding his arm, and Bryan now is like looking through the trunk of the car, and he grabs a crowbar, and then he hits Kane with it right in the head. And then at that point, he's trying to drag Kane back, in the arena, or back, at ringside, because he can't pit him, in the parking lot. It's not a Falls Count Anywhere match, just a regular Extreme Rules match. So it's trying to drag Kane, but, Kane's too big. So then he sees a forklift, so he puts Kane on top of the forklift, just drags in there, and hits Kane a bunch of times in the back with the crowbar. And then he gets in the forklift, he raises the forklift up while Kane is still on it, and then he just drives the forklift, towards ringside, all the way right in front of the ring with Kane still on it. And then he parks right in front of the ring, and then he, lifts it up even more, and Kane just falls off of it inside the ring. And then Bryan gets on the apron and then climbs up the place where Kane was, the board in the forklift. He climbs that up, and Kane's still down now in the ring, and then Bryan hits a diving headbutt, and the distance was pretty long, or was pretty far away. Kane was like on the other side of the ring. He was down, but he was pretty far away. But yeah, Bryan successfully hits the diving headbutt on Kane, but Kane kicks out. And then a few moments afterwards in the match, Bryan was going for the running knee, but Kane sits up. Usually, when Bryan's preparing for the running knee, doing the yes chants, their opponents, they usually get up groggy, but Kane just sat up, and Bryan went for it anyways, which was a mistake, because Kane catches him, I wouldn't say in midair, but he catches him by the throat. It was pretty cool looking, too, when he caught him by the throat, and then he chokeslams him, covers Daniel Bryan, but Daniel Bryan kicks out. And that wasn't actually the only chokeslam in the match. So, a bit afterwards, Kane gets out in the ring, and Bryan goes for a suicide dive. So he goes for a suicide dive, and Kane, once again, he catches him by the throat and chokeslams him right away through the announcer's table. It was a pretty cool catch, and, just follow-up move, chokeslam through the announcer's table. I know, Kane in this match reminded me of, the old Kane, the Monster Kane. And you'll see why, too, because, the match isn't over after that chokeslam through the announcer's table. So he hits that, he puts Bryan back in the ring, and then he sets up a table. He actually sets it up on the outside. At first, I was kind of confused because he was setting up on the outside while Bryan was on the inside, but then I was like, alright, he's probably going to try and chokeslam maybe Bryan from the inside of the ring to the outside, something like that. So he sets it up on the outside right in front of the ring, and then he looks down under the ring, and he finds some gasoline, and then right away on the side of the screen you see a guy with a fire extinguisher come up. So then I kind of figured out what was gonna happen, but I kind of figure out anyways when he grabbed the gasoline. So he grabs that, puts it on top of the table, and you can kind of figure out what happens next. He then lights it up, and the crowd is cheering now. And Kane gets up on the apron, he grabs Bryan, and it looks like he's trying to go for a chokeslam. Bryan gets out of it though, and he pushes Kane back first through the table, so Kane falls back first through the table, and then right away, two guys with fire extinguishers, they come in, and they spray it on Kane, I think they went overboard. They were right away when Kane fell, they're spraying him with the fire extinguisher so freaking much. It's like, alright, okay, I think it's, at some point you're like, alright, I think it's enough, I think he's cool now, he's not on fire or anything. So they're spraying him this entire time, and then finally they stop. Kane rolls back in the ring, and right away when he gets up, Daniel Bryan's there, he's set up, he hits the running knee on Kane, covers him, and wins the match. And then Daniel Bryan celebrates with the championships. He gets out of the ring, continues on celebrating, and then you see Daniel Bryan looking shocked when he's looking at the Titantron, because he sees Kane back in the ring. He sits up, and Kane just gets back up, and he raises his arms, puts them back down, and then the pyros, or the fire, goes off right behind Daniel Bryan on the stage, and Kane's music hits, lights go red, and that ends the show. So, man, what did I think about the show? I thought it was a great show. A lot of highlights, man. The freaking match, Shield versus Evolution, that was awesome. That jump Seth Rollins did, that was freaking cool. It was a great match overall. I mean, the Shield winning was kind of unexpected, because I was thinking Evolution was going to win. I was also thinking Ric Flair was going to come in and interfere. And, the pre-show match, that was, in my opinion, that was one of the best matches of the night. I'd say, if I were to rank my top 3 matches of the night, it would be the first one would be Shield versus Evolution. Second one, Daniel Bryan versus Kane. Third one would actually be El Torito versus Hornswoggle. It was seriously a really good match. I know a lot of people are like, come on, this match is silly or whatever. You know, maybe not expecting the match to be good, but it was really entertaining. And one of the highlights I thought in the match was when Drew went for a freaking flipping senton on Hornswoggle. I mean El Torito on the outside, who was supposed to be on the table, but he's no longer on the table, and then he just crashed through the table. And also El Torito and Los Matadores putting Jinder Mahal through some tables on the outside and ladders all stacked up. It was a pretty sick spot. And, you know, the Daniel Bryan versus Kane match, that exceeded my expectations. I thought that was a really, really good Extreme Rules match. I didn't expect them to go back, you know, to the back. I like the forklift, you know, spot, and also, you know, the setting the table on fire. We haven't seen that since WrestleMania 22, when, you know, Mick Foley, or actually Lita was the one setting the table on fire, and Edge speared Mick Foley through it. But yeah, we haven't seen that for years. So, you know, overall, man, it was just a good show. And also, another highlight for me, Barrett winning the Intercontinental Championship. Happy about that. As far as the Bray Wyatt versus John Cena match, you know, I thought the WrestleMania 30 match they had was better than this steel cage match. I wasn't really a big fan of this steel cage matches, but I find myself like when it comes to steel cage matches, I'm not the biggest fan of steel cage matches. So it's no surprise that also, you know, I prefer the WrestleMania 30 match they had rather than the cage match. Also, the triple threat elimination match, it was a good match. But, you know, I would have liked for them to use more weapons, you know, since it is, they could use weapons. They use, you know, a trash can. So I was hoping they'd use, you know, more weapons, seeing as how it is, you know, no DQ. But yeah, man, overall, it was a great show. 2 great pay-per-views in a row, great WrestleMania, great Extreme Rules. I'd have to give this show like a 9 on 10. It was really a good show. And it looks, from the ending of the show where, you know, Kane sits up and, you know, he sets the pyros off and his music hits, I'm thinking that the feud between Bryan and Kane isn't over. I think they'll have a rematch probably at Payback. But yeah, man, to sum it up, great show. Match of the night for me was definitely The Shield versus Evolution. And what about you guys? What did you guys think was the match of the night? And what would your rating be for Extreme Rules? With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, as always, you can click that like button down below. I'd really appreciate it. And I'm out. See you guys.